faces, new names. Another year to hide this pain. I'll give my all, I'm made to teach. So I force a smile as this hell repeats. As this hell repeats. Ooh. From the very start I tried my best. With a heavy heart I grade each test. Now I sit here in tears and wail. You didn't pass, but it's me who failed. It's me who failed. In the end, when that final bell dings, one way or the other, you'll be leaving, while I stay here with no reprieve, drowning in an ocean of misery. I whisper a prayer as I sit here alone. The empty seats, each a tombstone, engraved with names only I recall. This time please let me save them all. From the very start I tried my best. With a heavy heart I grade each test. Now I sit here in tears and wail. You didn't pass, but it's me who failed. From the very start I tried my best. With a heavy heart I grade each test. Now I sit here in tears and wail. You didn't pass, but it's me who failed.
Kapla, warriors! Today is a good day for teaching about the Tudors. That was the Marciana song, because she is a teacher. So that is why. Acacia, that was a very dark thought of yours. No, nobody was lost. We it's because she's a teacher. But now it's time for me to get into my British historian persona. So class, today we will be learning about the Tudor monarchy. Hello everyone, thank you for joining me. Our story begins with the War of the Roses, which many of you probably learned about at school. I know I did, but I didn't retain much of it. So, began with the War of the Roses, which, when you read about it, is extremely difficult to follow, because almost all of the players have the same name. Out of context, your break is over, you're going to have to hold it. So, as you'll see here, many of them share the same name. There's an Edward, an Edward, an Edward, an Edmund, a Richard, a Richard, a Richard, a Richard, oh, and this other Edward, a Henry, a Henry, a Henry. It's extremely confusing and very difficult to follow. Suffice it to say, there was a king who died, and so two houses, a Plantagenet king who died. So the two houses related, the House of Lancaster and the House of York, fought for who would have the crown. This one's helpful as well. So that one here we have at the bottom, Richard Duke of York. So Richard Duke of York. So all of them were fighting and fighting and fighting. Eventually Henry the Seventh faced which one? Some Richard. He faced some Richard, I believe. On the battlefield, killed him. Finally, the houses were united. Lady Nagant, you should be prepared for anything to be in the finals. I won't address it. King Henry, or Henry the Seventh, of the House of Lancaster, well, Tudor, and Elizabeth of York, of House of York, were wed, which united the two families and finally ended the Civil War, the War of the Roses, so named. Let me see if I can find a picture. Here, I'll search it. Why was it called the War of the Roses? And you will see, because both houses had a rose. Oh, come on, show me here. Well, that's garbage. Close enough. Both houses had a rose on their crest, or whatever you call it. So one was the red rose, I believe that was Lancaster, and white rose of York. When the two houses united with Henry and Elizabeth, they created the white and red rose. So that was very important. Oh, shoot. Back. So, actually this one's better. As you can see, that gave rise. King Henry VII and Elizabeth of York wed. They had 4 children. Arthur, Margaret, Henry, and Mary. And Elizabeth of York, her first child was a son, which was a great success for a woman of that time. There's nothing better at the time than, as a woman, than to give your husband a son, especially your firstborn. That was the greatest achievement you could have in life, especially assuming the son lived to adulthood. And again, I would like to point out they all have the same names. The women as well. Margaret and Margaret and Margaret. Elizabeth, Elizabeth, Elizabeth. So when you're trying to read about this, it's practically impossible to follow. So all you really need to know is they fought. Henry VII unalived someone on the battlefield and wed Elizabeth of York, uniting the houses, giving birth to their children. Now Arthur Tudor was the firstborn, and so they wed him to Catherine of Aragon. Here she is. Beautiful, isn't she? Well, you can't tell from this picture, but she was supposed to be quite beautiful. Lady Nagant, are you serious or are you joking? Can't tell, let me know. I'll go back if needed. Catherine of Aragon was supposed to be stunningly beautiful, with red hair, fair skin, and I believe blue eyes, which was all highly prized features of the time. She was also extremely learned and came from Spain. So, she was wed to Arthur, who promptly died within less than 3 months, I believe. Now, this is very important. Catherine and Arthur were wed. Both were approximately 15 years old. Now, why it is so important is, did they ever do the deed? Became an extremely important question. And I hope you understand what I mean by do the deed. When they spent only 5 nights together in the bedroom and were only 15 years old and didn't speak the same language. They both spoke Latin, but couldn't understand each other because they had different pronunciations. So they couldn't speak. She didn't speak English. He didn't speak Spanish. So, from my point of view, it's quite likely that they did not do the deed. They did not make a baby. They did not do what needed to make a baby because they were young. They had times. It actually wasn't old Acacia. Childbirth was extremely dangerous. So people were often wed at a young age but did not consummate their marriage until they were older. And they spent only 5 nights together and couldn't speak the same language. For all these reasons, I believe Catherine's claim that she and Arthur never consummated. this question becomes very important later. Because Henry VIII, this is when he became, as they say, corpulent. He was supposed to have been quite hot, an Adonis when he was younger, but he got ugly and fat. Anyway, he wanted to marry Catherine, who was 5 years older than him, so don't believe that ridiculous HBO series The Spanish Princess is complete fiction. He was 10 years old when he met her. He wasn't sending her sexy love letters, that's disgusting. But when he got older, he wanted to marry her. But according to Leviticus in the Bible, no, Lady Nagant, that's actually a different author who would have been a few centuries earlier, most likely. And Welsh. And as I was saying, give me a moment. According to Leviticus in the Bible, you couldn't marry your brother's wife. However, according to Catholicism or laws at the time, if Catherine and Arthur had never done the dirty deed, then she was not truly his wife, and therefore could marry Henry. She testified in front of God that she had not, therefore they were wed. And they had a wonderful, loving marriage for some time, about 15 years. Now, as I mentioned, Catherine's most important duty was to give Henry a son. And all kings wanted this, but Henry was particularly obsessed, like kind of insane about having a son. Like, I almost wonder if it was a kink for him or something. But she gave birth, well, she had 3 boys at first, some miscarriages and a stillborn. She eventually did give birth to a son, who they named, of course, Henry. Because there were only a select few names to choose from back then. Clearly. They named him Henry the 9th, I don't fucking know, Henry the whatever number. Unfortunately, he lived only, I believe, 52 days. It was very tragic. Unknown cause of death, I believe. This was his first wife, Acacia. Don't worry, we'll get through all 6. However, you should know that 3 of the 6 wives were named Catherine. That's probably why you're confused. No, God of Wolves, this is his first wife. So, her son died. Very tragic. Henry, around this time, started being unfaithful to Catherine. He got worse and worse over time, but they had a good marriage for some time. Next 3 babies, she had 3 of the 6 lady. We'll go through all 6, but 3 of the 6 were Catherine's. She had 3 more. She was pregnant 3 more times. All were girls. One of which was later Mary the First, aka Bloody Mary, aka Yikes That Portrait. Anyway, so it was terribly tragic for Catherine, because as time went on, and she grew older and less fertile, presumably, she became, the pressure grew greater and greater, and Henry became cruel and unfaithful. He started having affairs while she was pregnant, at one point getting a woman, Lady Blount, pregnant, and guess what he named the son that she had? Any guesses? Henry. Yes, I'm not making this up. Henry Fitzroy. The last name Fitzroy denoted that he was a bastard son of the king. Yes, Lady Nagant. He married 3 Catherines, 2 Annes, and a Jane. Yeah, Henry the number. That basically summarizes this story. Anyway, he had Henry, and he became increasingly cruel to her that she had failed him in her duty to produce an heir and a son. And so, she unfortunately... Oh, Riggins, thank you for becoming a member. And so, Catherine, she, unfortunately for her, went through early menopause. She was only about 40, which even by today's standards, that's early for many. And so... about that time, Henry was like, I don't want to do you anymore because you can't produce me a son, and I'm going to look for someone who can. Oh, and Riggins, you're tier 2 member. Going to need another version of next week's song with your name in it. Hello, Joshua. Yes, Lady Nagant, 10 points for you on the test. You can apply it to the midterm or the final. So yes, that's when he started looking around at other ladies. One of the first ladies he looked around at was Mary Boleyn. That's right, you heard me correctly. Mary Boleyn. Because first he banged Mary Boleyn before moving on to her sister, the infamous Anne Boleyn, who was of course also supposed to be beautiful, but apparently this was beautiful back then. I suspect she was beautiful by our standards, but they drew the portraits in a way that made them look like that, because they all look fairly similar. So he started to fool around with Anne Boleyn. No, not Anne of Cleves, Riggins. She's later. This was Anne Boleyn. And so she kind of worked her way up. And Henry was like, this bitch will give me a son. Gotta get rid of the old one. So he put Thomas Wolsey, who had been his faithful confidant and servant. Well, not servant, but servant in the way they all were servants of the king. He said, get the Pope to tell me that I can divorce Catherine. He should annul my marriage on the grounds that she banged my brother, even though she said she didn't, and I said she didn't. But now we shall say that she did. I'm cursed by marrying my brother's wife, and that's why I have no sons that are legitimate. So Wolsey was ordered to get the Pope to agree to this. The Pope said, nah, bro. Absolutely not. That's insane. That's not Catholic. So Wolsey fell from grace after many years. He was like, fuck you, Wolsey. I'll do it another way. Which, of course, famously led to England's split from the Church of Rome, the Catholic Church, and led to the Church of England, aka the Anglican Church. Part of the reason Henry wanted to do this is he thought no man, even the Pope, should have any right to tell me what to do, because I'm the king, put as king by God himself, therefore I speak for God. And so he said goodbye to the Catholic Church, and he decided he would be the head of the church and none could stop him. And therefore he could divorce Catherine, and he was abominably cruel to Catherine. It's terrible. Yes, this Pope was from the hood, Lady Nagant. Little known fact. He was terribly cruel to Catherine. He, and to Mary, his daughter. Yes, Henry just got crueler and crueler and more violent. He was just awful. He sent Catherine away. She refused. She said, I did not bang your brother. I am your true wife. And she was a devout Catholic. Extremely devout. She's the goat of piety. And she said, I will always be your wife. There's nothing you can do about it. But he sent her away. And it just destroyed her. And to top it off, he refused to let their daughter, who she loved dearly and was very close to, she refused to let them see each other. She was not beheaded, God of Wolves. I understand why you think that, but this is the wrong one. There's a different Catherine. I'm not making this up. So, Mary, who was about 17 at the time, was not allowed to see her mother. And they were put into terrible living conditions. Mary was eventually sent to be a servant to Anne Boleyn's daughter, Queen Elizabeth I. She had to be a servant for a baby. It was terrible. So Henry married Anne. The people... Oh, thank you, out of context. Thank you so much. And the people of England were very much against this. They... Yes, Acacia, it's divorced, beheaded, died. Divorced, beheaded, survived. Two beheaded. One died of natural causes. So it's terribly sad. What was I saying? Oh, the people of England were very against this. They loved Catherine. She was just an absolute paragon of what a queen should be. So they were furious with Henry, and they did not believe in Anne. They wanted Catherine. Catherine died very shortly after. Well, not shortly, within about 3 years. And it was terribly sad. She died. Many believed that Anne and Henry had poisoned her. Modern historians believe she actually had cancer of the heart because the biopsy found a blackened, shriveled heart, which I say he poisoned her emotionally and gave her heart cancer. And to top it off, he refused to let her daughter marry even when he knew she was dying. He wouldn't say, yes, Gamma Spectre, that's a whole other interesting topic, actually. I'll touch on that a bit. He wouldn't let Mary, their daughter, say goodbye to her dying mother. It was terribly cruel. He told her, you can see your mother if you acknowledge me, my marriage to Anne Boleyn, recognize her as the true king, and say that you are a bastard. Same to Catherine, and they both said, hail to the no. And hell is where you're going, Henry. So terribly sad she did not get to see her mother before she died. It was devastating. And it was so sad because all the way to her death, Catherine of Aragon insisted she was Henry's wife and that she loved him truly. Moving on to Anne Boleyn. It's quite tragic, really, what happened to Anne, because I think she was a bit naive. Because she seemed to think that Henry would be faithful to her and love her, and didn't learn from what happened to Catherine. Because he turned against Anne extremely quickly. 3 years, she hadn't given him a son, so he said, well, off with your head. She gave birth to Elizabeth, of course. She had no son, though. So, very quickly, within 3 years, he began having an affair with Jane Seymour. Also supposed to be beautiful, but yikes again. So he started cheating on her within 3 years, putting pressure on her. She did not have a son. He was like, you suck. You're hurting my self-esteem. I'm worried there's something wrong with my man parts. And so he created these ridiculous charges against her of treason and a word that I can't say on YouTube, but he accused her of doing some rather disgusting things with her brother. My favorite student, Con, I can't possibly choose, but I suppose the points should go to out of context, no? And Lady Nagin did answer some questions correctly. But so, Anne, he accused her of, and the tier 3 subs, he accused Anne of treason and doing things with her brother and having other affairs for which there was little to no evidence. So he condemned her to losing her head. Terribly tragic. He at least had the grace to allow her to be beheaded by sword instead of axe, which was supposed to be more effective and took less chops, more likely to do it with just one. Awful. So 3 years to give him a son. He said, you didn't do it. Goodbye. Yes, Sleepy's one of the OG tier 3 subs. So he was like, better move on to Jane Seymour, who in his eyes was the best wife because she did succeed. She gave him a male heir. And so she gave him that male heir, but unfortunately, she also died. At this time, during this time period, childbirth was extremely dangerous. Acacia, as long as you pass the test, I suppose I don't care. Acacia, heir with an H-A... Sorry, I'm confusing Spanish. H-E-I-R. Heir. So, right here, heir. So she succeeded. She gave him an heir, but she died in childbirth. At the time, 1 in 3 women died in childbirth. Many got infections afterwards, and that's what's happened to her, an infection from childbirth. It's also how Henry's mother died, and one of his other wives died that way later on, but it was with a child with a different man after Henry was gone. So Jane tragically died. And can you guess what they named their son? This one was not Henry. Oh shoot, don't read. Who can guess what their son was named? There's a few names left, if you remember. There was Henry, Richard, Edward. What did they name this son? Damn it, out of context, no. Yes, Randstone, interestingly, I read that women did not entirely often have miscarriages, and the reason for that is, it was Edward, yes, Lady Nagant, 20 points. The reason for that is, at this time period, this is crazy, they had no way to do a test for childbirth. You know, these days you just pee on a stick and see the color, or if it's a plus sign. But back then, they typically did not know until if they were pregnant until the baby started kicking, around 20 weeks. So their pregnancy was already halfway done by the time they found out they were pregnant. So miscarriages are less common after 20 weeks. I'm sure it was more common than today, but not as common as you would expect, because any of those miscarriages probably happened before they knew they were pregnant and thus were not recorded as miscarriages. If that makes sense. So she tragically died. That's all there is to say of Jane Seymour. Sorry. Speaking so much. If you'll notice, Hans Holbein the Younger painted all these portraits. Or most of them. He was tremendously famous for his portraits. So, Henry was like, well, shit, guess I need a new wife. His new number one bestie advisor was Thomas Cromwell. And Thomas was like, well, Henry, might I suggest Anna of Cleves? And he got a portrait painted by Hans Holbein the Younger. And he was like, she fine, I'll try it out. Yes, Lady Nagan, take 5? That's fine, I'm actually quite a bit dizzy if I'm being honest. I'll keep talking, but I won't move on. I'll give you a potty break. Ooh. My head hurts quite a bit as well. I'm alright. And next week I'll be doing a female anatomy class. No, not really. But I could do one on birth in the Middle Ages. Water break? No, her water did not break. She was not pregnant. Oof. Oh, goodness. She does look a bit like Padme. You're right, Ranstwin. Yes, Sleepy, your comment that she has a good portrait is very important to the story, actually. Lady Nagant, no. Are you taking a break, or was that a joke? If it was a joke, the ruler for you. Charlemagne, no, not you, but Lady Nagant, if that was a joke. Alright. I'm sorry, God of Wolves. I can do one on Catherine the Great of Russian history. I do know a bit about her. No, it wasn't. Okay, take your break, Lady Nagant. But Sleepy's comment that she had a good portrait is not ominous. It is, foreshadowing, perhaps? And reminder, I'll be gone all week next... No, she lost no points. She keeps them because it wasn't a joke. Next week I'll be gone, visiting my nephew and my sister. Tomorrow night I'll be revealing the title of the next song and releasing it to Tier 3 members. And it will be out Monday for everyone else. And, Friday, Sugar stream. I believe that's who's winning the polls still. And, then, yes, so gone all next week, no streams, but things will still be posted. And, might do some pictures of my trip with my black void face that I wear when I take photos. The children are terrified of it. Alright, has that been 5 minutes? Do you want 2 more minutes? I'm gonna move on. Alright, friends. So he said, she looks fine. And so, fine as in attractive. Riggins, excellent question. I hadn't really thought about that. Perhaps. I've just recently become obsessed, and I'm basically an expert now. Anyway, so he decided to meet Anne of Cleves. And he met her anonymously. He went to her not announcing himself. And he met her and was like, What the hell? I don't like her. I like her not. She's not pretty. And she wasn't really his type is the problem. Henry typically liked very extremely educated, intelligent, kind of independent women who were kind of ahead of their time, even. Not this one, Zephyr, but that's coming up, the next beheading. So, yes, the catfish one, Acacia. Lady and Agant, I'm going all of next week. So, Saturday through Friday, but I won't have any weekend streams. Yes, so Henry was like, that portrait was a lie. I was catfished. It was the OG catfish. So he stayed married with her. Many people believe that he made this whole story up about her being ugly. And the reason they think that he made this story up is that he couldn't get it up for Anne of Cleves, if you know what I mean. He confided in Thomas Cromwell, I haven't consummated the marriage because I couldn't get it up for her. Later, Thomas Cromwell accidentally let that knowledge become public, so everyone was like, oh, Henry's impotent, LOL, what kind of king is he? So he said, it's not because I'm impotent, it's because she's ugly as hell. That's the leading theory. Many believe he was impotent at this point and was trying to cover it up by blaming her attractiveness. So he annulled the marriage because they both openly admitted they had never consummated. But this was a great deal for Anne of Cleves. She never had to be with fat, disgusting Henry, and she got lands, and she was referred to as the king's dear sister, and she got to go live it up and have a great life, basically. She lived the longest of all of his wives. Good deal, I'd say. Charlemagne, actually, Catherine of Aragon was exceptionally well educated, as was Catherine Parr. So more than the typical noblewoman, and actually, Catherine of Aragon, her intelligence, her education, and promotion of education for women led to more education. So anyway, he divorced her. He had already, at that time, had his eyes on Catherine number 2. Catherine number 2, Catherine Howard. Many believe Catherine Howard was, it's believed, so he was married to her for, I believe, about a year. And she was believed to be only about 16 years old and perhaps even younger. That wasn't British, that was more like Irish, I think. But they believe she may have been only 16 years old when she married him. Catherine of Howard was known as being a coquette and sexually experienced. But Henry didn't know that. He believed she was perfectly pure and a perfect jewel of womanhood. And he was old at this time. He was about 50 years old, became enamored with a teenage girl, made him feel energized and youthful. So he married her. She was rather foolish, unfortunately, understandable given she was only about 16 and married to an old man who was also fat and violent and just kind of disgusting. It's unlikely they ever did anything because it is believed he was impotent at that time. But Catherine foolishly, it seems quite clear from the evidence she had an affair with a man named Thomas Culpeper, who may have also been her cousin, by the way. Thomas was another name. There was Thomas Wolsey, Thomas Boleyn, Thomas Cromwell, and Thomas Culpeper. I should mention Thomas Cromwell, because he advised the king poorly with his marriage to Anna of Cleves and let the impotence thing slip out, he was beheaded. Goodbye, Thomas. So, Catherine Howard, married to her about a year, no pregnancies. No, not Culpeper. Culpeper. Culpepper. So he married her, he loved her in that she was a foxy youth. She had an affair to some degree with Thomas Culpeper, one of his courtiers. And Henry got wind of the fact that she was sexually experienced before he married her. He was not at all okay with this because he believed that she was a perfect, pure flower. He had this fantasy about who she was. So she was imprisoned in the Tower of London, and he created a law that any woman who would ever marry the king must first divulge to the king any sexual experience she had had. If she failed to do this before marriage, she would be executed. He created this law and then applied it retroactively to Catherine. Plus, she'd had an affair, which was also, I believe, grounds for treason. So poor Catherine, 17 years old, was beheaded. She didn't get the sword, she got the axe, which was not as good. Terribly tragic. So goodbye, Catherine. Quite sad. And then he was quite depressed after this. He was already going downhill. And it was, this worsened it. He became kind of, disillusioned, I think, after his perfect flower turned out to be a dirty birdie. It was part of it, Charlemagne, yes. The purity was a big part of it. And then the fact she was also having an affair. The evidence against her is pretty damning, quite damning. So he moved on to another woman, Catherine Parr. Highly educated, feminist for the time. She had already been married 2 or 3 times before. All her husbands died because people just died left and right back then. And so, she was his 6th wife, the 3rd Catherine. She outlived him, thank God, but she almost also was potentially executed because she was a Protestant Reformationist. And I know this is confusing because it's quite confusing to me because even though Henry broke from the Catholic Church, he wasn't exactly a Protestant. I don't know, I get confused about this. So she wanted the Protestant Reformation to move on in England and for it to become fully Protestant. Henry didn't like her having opinions. The thing about Henry is he liked educated, strong-willed, opinionated women, and then he wanted to dominate them. He was kind of a dick. And so when she was being opinionated, he was like, nah, bitch, I want you to have your opinions and keep them to yourself. I just like knowing that you have them. So her life was threatened, but she was very smart. She went to him and was like, I'm so sorry, Henry. I should never have had an opinion. What was I thinking? I'm just a dumb woman. I can't help but be dumb. And so he was like, very understandable, Catherine. You're forgiven. Very smart. Yes, it's quite true, Charlemagne. So she survived. Saw him to the end of his life. The sad thing about Catherine is before she married Henry, she was engaged to another man, Thomas Seymour, who was actually the brother of Jane Seymour, his 3rd wife. She was engaged to be married to him, and it seems to have been a love match. But Henry was like, actually, I'd like to marry you, so she had to just say yes, because Henry's #1 pet peeve was being told no, and the result would be losing your head. But then she outlived Henry. I don't think he lived that long. I think they were married for maybe 5 years. And then she was able to still marry Thomas Seymour. Problem with Thomas Seymour is he was a pervert. And he basically tried to molest... I'm not supposed to say that word, am I? Shit. He tried to do things to Elizabeth, Queen Elizabeth, while she was a child. So he was awful. And he eventually got beheaded as well because he tried to usurp the throne. So, here are our successors. Mary I, Henry's oldest child. Elizabeth I, his 2nd child. Edward VI, his only living son. Well, his only living legitimate son. So, Henry passed and Edward became king. He didn't live very long. As you can see here, he died at age 15. none of Henry's sons actually lived very long. The other son, the bastard Henry, died at 17, I believe. So Edward died. Edward did not want Mary to become queen. So he put Jane Grey. Jane is another one of the names you were allowed back then. Put her on the throne. Mary came with her supporters, of which she had many, given that she was the daughter of Catherine the Great, whom the people loved. And so she got rid of Jane Seymour because it was a threat to her power. Mary became known as Bloody Mary because she was still really pissed about the fact that her father treated her terribly and that he ended Catholicism in England because she was a devout Catholic, having been raised by the most devout of all, Catherine of Aragon. So she wanted to turn England back to Catholicism. At first she was somewhat lenient, but then she said, well, if you won't be a Catholic, then I will burn you. Surprisingly, she actually didn't burn that many people, which sounds bad. It was around 300, I believe. But that's not that many, given that Henry had as many as around 60,000 people beheaded during his reign. So that makes Mary look quite tame. Mary only lived to the age of 42 and did not have any heirs, leading to the reign of Queen Elizabeth I. And so, the story, I don't need to tell you anything about Queen Elizabeth I, I think. Everyone knows her. Probably the most famous of all British monarchs, except the second. So, congratulations, Elizabeth. Elizabeth chose to never marry. I wonder why that was. Why would Elizabeth not want a husband? Was it because her father was a raging psychopath, misogynist? I suspect so. As Gamma mentioned, there are some theories as to why Henry was increasingly cruel and violent. Some believe it was the result of a head injury from a horse riding accident. Others have suggested it may have been from, I believe it was called McLeod syndrome. There's also many theories for why his wives were not able to bear him very many children relatively. Yes, Henry is her father. Because Henry's wives, as I mentioned before, miscarriages after 20 weeks are significantly less common. But his wives had several. And many stillborn children, and one that only lived 2 months. So many believe he may have had some kind of health problem, such as kale positive is one I've heard of. So most believe that Henry was the problem, and that's why, with so many wives, he didn't have very many children. Yes, Regan, syphilis, there's many theories. Probably was his fault. And so, well, if you put it on the Discord, I'm going to see it, yes. So, he had just 3 children despite so many wives and many pregnancies. Now, some fun facts. One fun fact I will bring up is the sweating sickness. This happened for some time during the medieval period, and it unalived Henry's older brother Arthur. Anne Boleyn and Catherine of Aragon both survived it, but many died. It was a crazy disease that we don't know exactly what it was, because it doesn't match perfectly any disease we know today, so possibly a variant of some virus that no longer exists, that specific variant. It was called the sweating sickness, or the sweat. This disease was crazy. The symptoms could come out of nowhere, and you could be dead within hours. And it unalived thousands. It would go in, it was much like the Black Death. It would come in and just wipe everyone out. It was horrendous, horrific. And so quite interesting, because we don't really know what this is. God of Wolves will address it at the end. I'll have some tasks for you. Yes, Gamma, Henry loved jousting, and he was terribly arrogant. But I have some important facts for you. And that is 2 things. Henry VIII was related to all of his wives. This distantly, albeit distantly, but he was related by blood to all of his wives, all 6 of them, and all 6 of his wives were also related to each other. You see here King Edward the First. Scroll down, branches, 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 branches. Henry VIII. So, all of his wives related to him and to each other, some more closely than others. You can see Catherine Howard, Anna of Cleves were more closely related. Catherine was also fairly closely related to... These 4 were more closely related. And so I suppose his children, though from 3 different wives, were double related. Yes, God of Wolves, all the monarchs and nobles just intermarried and used all the same names. If you were a man, you could be Edward, Richard, Henry, maybe John or Thomas. And if you were a woman, Catherine, Jane, Anne, Elizabeth, Margaret, Mary. That was about it. There were a few select others. Arthur was an anomaly. His brother Arthur, not terribly common. And quite strange they would name the firstborn son Arthur, given that they would have expected him to become king. So yes, disturbing. Some say Henry actually partially chose his wives based on their ancestry, which of course would have made them more... If he wanted noble women related to kings, descended from kings, they'd have to be most likely related to him, would they not? So ew is what we will say to that. Yes, they were all very closely related. Quite insane. It wasn't so much a family tree as more like a tangled web, perhaps. So disgusting. But here, look at these nice coat of arms. What the hell is this? Ah, yes, we see Henry's... Wait, what? Oh, of course. So Henry's coat of arms would have been the rose, the bicolored rose. The signet, or the what the hell ever, of Catherine of Aragon was the pomegranate. Here's Anne's, which was a hawk, or an eagle, or a something. This one, this stupid looking one, whatever the hell that is. Quite nice. So my plan when I travel is to go to England in January, because I would like to attend the Catherine of Aragon festival, celebrated at the anniversary of her death annually. Oh, another fun fact. So not only would Henry not let Mary visit her mother, Catherine, so Bloody Mary was not permitted to visit her mother, his first wife. He wouldn't let her visit her. She didn't see her again. She died. But to top it off, he wouldn't give Catherine the funeral befit of a queen. He said she was never queen, she wasn't my queen, so no queen's funeral for her. He also did not attend her funeral despite being married to her for 24 years. And he would not let Mary attend her funeral either. He was what we might call in modern day a piece of shit. It's quite sad. I'd like to take the ruler to Henry VIII. Quite a monster. As I mentioned before, hopefully you guys heard this, he had approximately, I'm rounding here, but approximately 60,000 people. So between 40 and 60, I believe, is the estimate. 40 and 60,000 people executed during his reign. One of the bloodiest in history, I believe. And yet we call Mary Bloody Mary, who... What fraction is that? 300 out of 60,000? Tiny fraction. I'm not going to do it in my head. So yes, a monster. And ironically, he wanted a son so bad, but ironically, his daughter became one of the greatest monarchs of all history, not just in England, but in the world. So I find that quite ironic. And it's also funny because, it then led to her having no husbands. She was like, I have lived firsthand what a husband is like. The thing about Henry is if you just did exactly what he wanted, he was very generous, and he would give you gifts and jewels and everything you could want. But if you told him no, or an opinion, or in any way displeased him, it was terribly dangerous, and you would lose your head. Which is why in the musical Six, anyone seen the musical Six? It's tremendous, it's fantastic, it's brilliant. So, the musical Six is about the 6 wives of Henry VIII. It's not like a standard musical, it's more like a rock concert. And the song about about Anne Boleyn is called Don't Lose Your Head. And yes, the 8th of his name, yes, he was just called Henry VIII. We should start calling him Henry VIII the Impotent or Henry VIII the Misogynist, but I don't see that happening anytime soon. So yes, terrible times. The Rebel King, never, he doesn't deserve that. Because the truth is, the thing about Henry that's so annoying is he broke England from the church, the Catholic Church, not because he was a Protestant, not because he agreed with Martin Luther, but just because he wanted to be able to do whatever the hell he wanted, and believed he should be the most powerful person. And the funny thing too, is Henry VIII argued against Martin Luther. He thought Martin Luther was a heretic. And then he went and became the ultimate heretic, didn't he? Ironic. So, yes. I know that's why he's called the Rebel King, but I don't think he deserves it. Because he did it for stupid reasons. You know what I'm saying? Same thing with the executions. He didn't do it with any kind of goal, like Mary's were because she believed it was for the greater good of Catholicism, which obviously not justified. But for Henry, it was just all about this person pissed me off, or this person's in my way, so off with their head. No greater good, no ultimate overarching goal, just a piece of shit. And no, Viper's theme was not inspired by that. It was just about the joke of her bomb collar. So yes, that was Henry. As we finish up for tonight, any suggestions for the next topic of class with Dr. Export? It could be any subtopic within speech pathology. It could be any other topic. It could be Catherine the Great, the rumor was she died from having sex with a horse. Not true, but thought I'd mention it. Other topics. Gosh. What else do I know a lot about? Animals. Paleontology. Other things. I don't know. Explaining accents. I could do something along those lines because it does fall into the umbrella of speech pathology. Science, that's rather broad, Lady Nagant. What kind of science? I am interested in science, but I need you to narrow it down. I don't think an hour's enough for all of science. The anatomy and history of the erota fish. Do you mean the barrel eye? That would be interesting, but I also don't think it would do a whole hour. Lady Nagant, perhaps some of the world's strangest animals. Zephyr, I could do dinosaurs. I do enjoy dinosaurs. American and British English. Yes, that could be interesting. I'm going to jot down these topics for the future ideas. Dinosaurs, American and British English, weirdest animals. What else? Deep sea fish. Yes, Blue Cthulhu. That's one of my favorites. What else? The Bosnian Pyramid Conspiracy. Gosh, I don't think I know about that, Consina, but that would be interesting. The pre-revolutionary colonies of the United States. Yes. That is an interesting topic. Plus, that's what I was playing when I played Echoes of the Plum Grove. That was pre/slash what do you call it? Peri revolutionary colonies. Ah, yes, the anglerfish. That will definitely go with the deep sea fish. Oh, Lady Nagant, mythology, absolutely. Mythology of any culture. I know quite a bit about Greek mythology. I crushed my class that I took on classical mythology in college, and in 6th grade I did all the extra credit. More British houses. Yes, could do that. Although that would be difficult only because they will all have the same names. Exotic creatures, yes. What? Exotic creatures and recipes? What? Like you're going to eat them? Like a blowfish? You want a recipe for blowfish? Pufferfish, I mean. Oh, that was the same. Yes, mythology and its relation to the culture. Fascinating. Alright, we've got a good list going here. We'll certainly keep asking. Cana, is that right? Cana? You'll have to remind me, Lady Nagant, but I'll try to remember. Ah, yes, Riggins, the Louis. Maybe, oh gosh. Marie Antoinette. Ah, yes, I don't know much about military history separately, but more intertwined with the history I know about, if that makes sense. Anything else? Good list going here. Question. Would any of you ever want me to speak in my German accent? I was wondering that today. I love to do my German accent. I've worked hard on it, I think. Interestingly, God of Wolves, apparently the quote, if you translate it more directly from French, is actually, let them eat brioche, which is not cake, but a fancy bread. So, obviously still a ridiculous thing to say, but interesting. Oh, you'd like to hear it? All right, prepare yourselves. Give me a moment. I need a little pause. Give me 30 seconds to rest my throat. Mama, mama, mama. Mama, mama, mama. Oh, I don't know if I can do it. I've been doing the British run for so long. Shoot, give me a sec. Let me see. Okay, I might have been doing the British for too long. I might not be able to break out of it. I might have to demonstrate the German one tomorrow. It's like with the Yan one. Sometimes, that's the thing with voicing, is the ones where I do like 5 different voices. I get stuck in one and then I have to take a break. Okay, let me try this. Yeah, I might have to do it tomorrow. Let me try if I can do it though. Es ist mein German accent. Oof, no, I've lost it. I'm too British. Let's see. Ich bin... no, I gotta do it tomorrow. I'm too stuck in the British. Tune in tomorrow for my German accent. I think it's pretty good, but I'm stuck. I can't break out of the British quickly enough to do it tonight. Whew. Yes. Gosh, that was a lot of talking. Oh, thank you, out of context. Fuji apple, did you remember that's my favorite, or did you just happen to say, is that just a coincidence? I'm very picky about apples. I pretty much only eat Fuji's. Yes, this is my California Bay Area accent. I mean, I assume that's what it is. I don't think... What? So, yeah. That's my accent. I think my accent mostly sounds mainstream American accent, but I don't know. I've been working on my Italian accent, but that's for when I'm speaking Italian. I think it's getting better, and I was quite pleased with myself today. I made up a whole sentence in Italian, and it was correct. Thrilled. And, tomorrow night, I'll be revealing the name and subject, meaning the Nikkei, of the next song. And and it'll be out for tier 3 members, I believe Friday. Cosmic Crisp apples, I like them, but I don't love them. Most of the time they're so big, it's like too much apple for me, and they're a little bit too tart. So Fuji's I love. And so, shit, what was I saying? And then tomorrow will be the last stream with me before my vacation. Friday will be with Sugar. And then... Shit, I was gonna say something else. Oh, another little surprise for tomorrow at the stream, but you'll have to tune in. There will be a chat goal I'm planning for tomorrow. And the goal will be a surprise. Doctor, I would be open to an apple tier stream, but I'd have to try more apples. Which I could certainly do. Because I've only really tried Gala, Red Delicious, Fuji, Golden Delicious, Granny Smith, and Cosmic Crisp. Did I say that? I've tried like 6 times. Crying because they're gonna miss me. I mean, I'm crying that I'm gonna miss you. I thought you were somebody else. Oh, I misread that. So, oh, Decopon. Oh my gosh. I'm sorry, I can't read your name. Those are so good right now. I got a free pound at the local store as my membership. And then I went and got more because they were so good. They're like the perfect orange. No, not only red apples, actually, Acacia. There were these, like, golden ones that I don't know exactly what they were. Golden greenish that my coworker brought in once that I really liked. I have not tried Envy, Ambrosia, or Pink Lady. So I'm gonna have to work on that. Kaze, sorry. Sorry about that, Kaze. So... Yes. That is a John Denver reference. Stay tuned for more on that after this break. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry. I don't like Granny Smith apples Riggins because they're too tart for me. Like, I might have a bite. Or, like, in the salad, I like them, but they're too tart. Grapples. I've heard of grapples, but I've never had them. Oh, guys, sorry. I gotta go. Long day tomorrow. Just noticed the time. And so I will see you all. I hope you learned something. Comment what you learned today and how it enriched your life. And a poll will be out tomorrow, letting you guess the subject of the next song, and we will be finalizing who won. Well, I mean, it pretty much is obviously Sugar. Don't worry, Zephyr, I'll be back tomorrow night. Sorry, that's my newscaster voice. Maybe I'll do a stream like that one time. I should practice that, actually. That'd be pretty funny. Like, but Henry wasn't satisfied. Find out later. Tomorrow night. How many of Henry VIII's wives were named Catherine? Tune in. Anyway. So, good night, all. And see you later. My energy just crashed. Bye.